Hombre autodeterminado explica los fundamentos de la Common Law. Bienvenidos a este nuevo video. Aquí les dejo una perla. Este hombre explica perfectamente los fundamentos y los principios de la Common Law. Más que nada este video lo dejo porque hay mucha gente que duda sobre la Common Law y este hombre lo explica perfectamente. Así que espero disfruten de esta información.
I thought I'd come on here tonight and do a video about the foundations of common law. I know a lot of people have been kind of wondering about when we're going to start teaching that. We haven't started the new channel yet; that's still in the works. But I'd like to give you guys just the bare bones of it. I think it's important information. It's something that you're never going to learn in school or from anybody really. They don't really want people to know this for the most part. It's very valid. It applies to today more than it probably has ever applied in history. Um, I hope you get something out of this. A lot of folks didn't even realize this existed or what happened and why things are the way they are as far as legal remedies and that sort of thing. But I'm going to just step on the basics. I guess for lack of a better term, I've been led to give these talks to people. I've talked to several hundred already and continue to do so. And Gordy and I, every week, we have a group of people outdoors that we give this talk to, as well as some other uplifting, action-based messages that we can help people move forward. So anyway, he's not with me tonight. Obviously, it's just going to be me. So I'm just going to wait for a few folks to come in, and then I'm going to start off on foundational common law, something maybe you don't know a lot about, something maybe you've always been interested in but didn't know quite how it worked. I've been lucky enough to have studied common law for a decade and learned some things about it, and I want to share that stuff with you, or at least the foundations of it. I'll get some folks in here. Kathy, hi Gary. I got Steve Austin. I got JB from Tennessee. How you doing, bud? Glad to have you in here. If you folks wouldn't mind smashing the like button, greatly appreciated. It'll help folks know that we're going to be live here at least probably for the next 45 minutes. I'm going to cover some very basic information about common law. What is common law and things like that. A lot of people think that it means common law marriage and that's where it ends. No, that's incorrect. And I'm gonna dispel some of those myths that maybe you've heard about it. I'm going to give you some remedies at the end of all this, so it's not all doom and gloom. Although a lot of this information, people aren't aware of what has gone on, but I'm going to make it blatantly obvious. By the end of this, you'll know what happened and why it happened and what you can do to correct it, which is a process unto its own, but it's all doable, guys, I assure you. So what's common law? You're going to see me wearing my spectacles tonight because I'm going to have to read some of this up close. But what is common law? Well, I have a good definition for it here. I'm going to read with you. It's called common law is man's law. It's law used to protect the common welfare of the people. It's simple law. It's basic law. It's law that is international to all folks. You were born with common law intact, and you will die with it intact. And basically, there's only one rule in common law, and that is do no harm. Do no harm. In other words, don't do harm to your fellow man or woman. That's considered a trespass. And you can hold another man liable for a trespass. And I'm going to explain a bunch of different things for you, but that is the basic definition. And I want you to keep a few things in mind here. I'm going to read you a couple terms, but they apply to what I'm going to say. You cannot create a license for something if it was not lawful to begin with. Okay, you can't create a license for something if it wasn't lawful to begin with. Lawful carries with it an implication of ethics and morality. And what's gone on today is there's a lot of compelled performance, which is a contract involved and compels you to perform under the terms of the contract. And sometimes it compels you to perform under the terms of the contract against your will. And I want you folks to know that we're basically not, we don't have to abide by what they're saying. We don't have to contract with those that we wish not to contract with. And in fact, you've got a choice whether you want to or not. So I'm going to start out on chapter 1, the foundations of common law. You're free under common law to do whatever you like as long as you do no harm. And like I said, that's the fundamental rule of it. So chapter 1 deals with the unlawful conversion of every man, woman, and it's fraud. And the fraud is actually called personage, Personage. So here's how it goes, guys. The record of live birth, okay, is the true document and the foundation of the theft of your child. It contains your parents' wet ink signature and the details of your properties, your birth, your given name, your family name are clearly written on it. So what's happened is you were born, and the doctor and nurse brought in this form, and they said, please fill this out. We'd like to register your baby, or we'd like to register your offspring. And that only started happening in Canada here in the 30s, I think it was. And before that, you were registered, you were written down many times in your family Bible, is where they would put that. So you guys have probably seen family Bibles where you can see the whole genealogy of your family, the births and the deaths and everything else. Well, that's where they used to record that. I think in the United States, it was 1913 where they started registering people's offspring. So anyway, you filled out this thing called the Certificate of Live Birth. I just happen to have one. This is mine. And it looks something like this. And it's got my parents' signatures. It's from when I was born. And it's the original document. It's the document that they signed in the hospital. So here's where the fraud has gone on. The Register General received that record of live birth that I just showed you, and through fraud sends out a birth certificate to your parents. The birth certificate and the statement of live birth, record of live birth, are not the same instrument. They're totally different. One has your parents' wedding signature on it. The other one does not. The other one has what's called a CUSIP number, a CUSIP number on it, in red on the back of your birth certificate. Here's what it looks like. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. See the red number? That's called a CUSIP number. And who owns that is the American Bankers Association. And I'll get to that in a minute, what they do with that number. So anyway, they send you the birth certificate to your parents. The birth certificate is not yours. It has nothing to do with you. It's 100% their creation. It's their vessel. A name which looks like your family name is written on it in all capital letters. You have been stolen from your parents is what effectively has gone on, and you didn't even know it, and your parents weren't aware of it either. So what they're doing is they're taking your family name and they're creating their own vessel. In other words, their own instrument from your family name in all capital letters. I'll get into that in a second too, what that means. And it's theirs and they own it. And what they're doing with that CUSIP number is they're trading you on the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. They're trading you like a bond, like a trade. It's a trust that they've made. And you're not even aware of that. And they're even getting capital. They're getting loans based on that. And what this number means is basically your slave number. And they're using that based on what they predict will be your usable amount of tax income that you will generate for the state over the span of a 70-year livelihood. Most people live on average 70 years today. So anyway, that's fraud. Okay, that's a big fraud. So then they've used this instrument, the birth certificate, to create all kinds of things with that. And you guys know what those instruments are: your driver's license, social insurance, social security numbers in the States. They've created all that from this fraudulent document that they stole from your parents, right? And they stole your family name and they've stole your baby essentially on paper and made their own thing out of it. Wow, it gets better. So you're traded as a vessel under maritime admiralty law, and that's called the law of the sea. All documents you have are the legal fiction, or the stolen name in all capitals. It's not you. You're not the man and woman on these documents. It's their creation. Remember, I said they own that creation. It's theirs. A bond was issued under your baby's stolen name for all future tax earnings. You're treated as a vessel, a ship under maritime law, something in which they control. So that's the fraud. That's what's happened. If you don't believe what I'm telling you, go research it yourself. Just don't use Google as the search engine. Use something else. But that's exactly what's gone on. You've been traded. And they continue to trade your name to this very day under that number. And there's a lot of money in that trust, people say, that is owed to you and has been stolen from you. But anyway, some people call this the straw man. It sort of is, but it's not really the same thing. It's just the fraud. We call it the vessel, right? And all government ID has been created from that fraud, and it's all in capital letters. And the capital letters means capitis dimensus, which in Roman means the larger the numbers or the letters, the less status you have. So to have something written in all capitals means you essentially have no status at all. You have zero status. So that's why they're able to make it all capital letters, because it's got you have no status. They own it. So anyway, chapter 2, the maxims of law. The contract makes the law. And we're going to talk about service corporations. On one side, you have legal, and on the opposite category, you have lawful. And legal means persons on the water controlled by service corporations. What's a service corporation? Things like Burger King, Tim Hortons, any government institution, motor vehicle, RCMP here in Canada, Canadian government, Revenue Canada, all those are service corporations. Lawful means men and women on the land. One is the land and one is on the water. The lawful is the law of the land. You probably heard your grandparents say, well, you got to follow the law of the land. What they were talking about was common law. And you're born free under God, and the highest court on the land is also a common law court. And jurisdiction is equal to control. That's what jurisdiction means. Man is born free with dominion over the earth and is right under God as far as it goes. It goes God, man, and guess what do you think is at the very bottom of the list? Service corporations. They're right at the bottom as far as importance goes. So we're born free with dominion over the earth. We're born with rights. We'll die with rights. These rights cannot be turned into any governmental privilege by a stroke of a pen or by a piece of paper. This is why they can't take your rights from you, because they don't own them to begin with. You're born with them. They're intact, right? They're not privileges. They're rights. Jurisdiction means control. That's all it means. You often hear the courts battling over jurisdiction. Well, they're battling over control. Who has the control to do what? So you never accept any man's titles. Like, I don't accept the title of Mr., or I don't accept the title of citizen or taxpayer or whatever they want to call me. I don't accept those titles. The reason why is because those are contracts. Whether you know it or not, that is a contract you're entering into. And as I said, a man and a woman, man or a woman, have the right to enter into any contract they see fit, and they don't have to contract if they don't wish to. And I'll go into more detail on that later. So what do you do? So you know where the fraud started. You know where they got you. You know that when you enter the court of law that you don't have any status in there. That's why you need a lawyer to represent you. But what they're actually doing is representing you to the court, because you have no standing in there. You're considered a child, an idiot, a dead vessel in there. You have no standing whatsoever. That's why they always say you need legal counsel, because the words they're using in there is called legalese, and it's not anything you even know of. It sounds like the common everyday usage words that we use, but it's nothing of the sort. These words mean something entirely different. And if you read Black's Law Dictionary, I read book 1 to 9, you'll get an idea of what some of these words actually mean to them. And you have to be part of their society to use them. So that's why you're always ambushed, you're always railroaded if you ever get brought into their court. There's no winning in there. The only way to win is to stand in truth as a man or a woman under common law. So no contract equals no control or no authority. So basically what you have to do is what I did, is you have to correct your status with these companies, these service corporations. I wrote the government and I told them basically, I, a man known as that legal name that they stole, being of sound mind and body and of a mature age, am capable to take care of my own effects. Thank you for your service for the past 38 years and for seeing to my affairs, but I will now be taking over my own affairs and going back to my original inherent jurisdiction, the one I was born with. You're all fired. And I wrote that letter and I sent it to the Prime Minister, I sent it to the Governor General, I sent it to the Department of Justice, I sent it to about 50 different agencies, all by registered mail, and have receipts for that effect. The dates of service and when they signed for it and everything else. So I know they got it. And there's other things you can do too, and we'll touch on that at a later date. So you correct your status, you make your own correct ID if you wish to. I registered my birth certificate with the Common Law Court of Great Britain, and that the only place your birth certificate is currently registered is with the person that issued it. So mine is from Prince Edward Island. Well, that's where it's registered, is in the records of vital statistics and PEI. It's not registered anywhere else in the world, but it is now. It's registered with the Common Law Court of Great Britain. And we can go through that whole process. You can register your motor vehicles in there. You can get a bond. You don't have to run their license plate anymore if you don't wish. You can run the Common Law Court plates. You still have to have a bond to cover yourself if you cause an accident. You don't want to be in that type of a situation where you can wreck your whole life over finances. But there's other things that can be done. You correct your status. You send them all notice. I gave back my social insurance number. I gave everything back. Basically, you live as a man or a woman. It's all a choice. You can live as a legal person, the name on the driver's license, or you can live in your true correct status, which is a man or a woman. And people ask me, well, aren't you a person? No. Aren't you a human being? No, not a human being either. I'm a man. And that's all I can be 100% sure that I am, as a man. And that's what I go by. So people ask me, well, how do you do that? Well, I just told you. You correct your status and you just live in your original right where you were born, where you came from. Common law isn't just common law marriage. And people say, well, that was just a system that happened in merry old England. That's not true. Common law hasn't gone anywhere. Here's common law. Here's the legal system. They put a smoke screen on you. They covered up common law with the legal system and told you that common law is no longer valid, that the legal system is the true law now. That's not the case at all, fellas. I'm telling you, it's still there. It's still valid. You can still choose to live either way, and it's your choice, 100%. And if you choose to live as a man or a woman, their acts, their statutes, their motor vehicle codes, they're all that garbage doesn't have any effect on you at all. Okay? It doesn't mean a thing to you because you're not bound by any of it as a man or a woman. That's your true freedom. And if somebody does a trespass against you, you can make a claim. You can push it through a common law court, make a claim, and have that person brought to that courthouse as a man or a woman. They can't come in there as a police officer. They can't come in there as a big government official with a full legal team. As a matter of fact, lawyers can't even go in there. You have to have firsthand knowledge as a man or a woman. And that's where your power comes from. Yeah, River City Courier says it doesn't work that way, bud. Yeah, it actually does work that way. But the problem is that we have trouble getting into these courts because they're so corrupt that they're going to tell you that the paperwork has to be their paperwork. You have to fill out a legal complaint when you don't have to at all. My grandfather pushed a common law claim in the 40s in Prince Edward Island on a napkin. He wrote the claim on a napkin. He had grade 3 education. The other guy, the trespasser, the wrongdoer, was brought to court. The judge asked him the question, did you break Emmett's shovel? He said, yes, I did. Well, you own the shovel. Case dismissed. Done. That's common law. That's not legal system. There was no legal representatives there at all. And they're not needed there. Okay. I'm sorry if this hurts some of your feelings, but I'm telling you guys right now, this is the truth of what's gone on. All right. I've researched this for 10 years. I spent a decade of my life looking into this. We're in the process of moving several claims through the court right now. And we're going to document every single one of them so you guys can see how it's done. There's not a lot of common law precedents been set because they don't want that set. They don't want people to see that there is actually another avenue open to them called common law that can affect change, and you can get justice, you can get remedy with. So that's why they're hiding all this. They just dismiss the cases or dissolve them. They just dismiss them so they don't even exist, and then they're not going to be found on paper anywhere. And that's the absolute truth of what's gone on. And that, like I said, this is just the basics. I'm only going into step 1 tonight of 100 different steps. But overall, as a whole, common law is as simple as knowing who you are, correcting your status, and standing in truth. And that's simple. Don't live your life as a legal person or a legal fiction, like they'd have you believe that you're on the driver's license. I had a police officer pull me over one time, and he goes, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing all right." He goes, "Can I see your driver's license?" I showed it to him, handed it to him, which is a contract, by the way. That's how they get you. And that's why the first question they ask you is, you have a driver's license, because it's a contract. Anyway, handed it to him. He goes, "Is this you?" And he pointed at the picture on the license. And I said, "No." I said, "That's a piece of plastic." Then a big smirk comes on his face, eh? And he goes, "You have a good evening, sir." I said, "Yeah, you too." Drove away. Right. And it's that simple, guys. Some of these police officers know what common law is, and the judges certainly know. And they do not want you knowing this information, I can tell you right now. And people are getting thrown in jail and probably murdered in China for talking about this, right? And so I just want you to know that it's a real deal, and there is remedy to be found there. And if you want to know more, then certainly keep listening. If it doesn't interest you to sit here and talk to you guys about this tonight, right? I just felt that you should learn or should know what's gone on and how to have remedy if you want remedy. This isn't sovereign citizen. It's got nothing to do with sovereign citizen or the free man movement. This is just basic common law, man, woman. That's it. That's all. Those are just titles that these people put on others to make them look bad, right? They're just titles. So let's get into a little more of this. So basically, you have a right to contract with whomever you want, and you have the right to also not contract with whomever you don't want to contract with. And it's always been that way. So you got to make the service corporations understand that a man or woman stands before them and not a legal fiction or legal person. You do this by correcting your status via proper paperwork mailed to the government telling them that they're all fired and that you're going to stand under your original jurisdiction. So I always ask this question. I've even had lawyers at my talks that have come out against it and been heckling me in the audience, which I just love. And they're like, "Well, you have no choice. You have to be legal. I mean, this is the legal world we're living in." And I said, "Can you show me the law that requires me to be legal?" "I'll wait. I got all day, man. It's been 10 years and never heard the answer yet. I'm still waiting for that one. Show me the law that says I got to be legal." There is none. The problem is the people need to restore their lawful courthouses, proper courts of record, and move their own claims for trespasses. And people haven't been doing that, and they need to start doing that. And that's the only way you're going to hold these people into account. If they violate you in the legal world, you have the right to put a claim of trespass against them, have them brought before the court, heard by a jury of their peers, and if convicted, a judgment against them, and the sheriffs must carry out that judgment. If they don't, you go after their bonds. That's what you do. You go right after their bonds because they have a duty and obligation to do their job, right? And if they don't want to do it, you go right after their bond. They can't work if they don't have a bond. Common law court of record, that's what you're after. And if you'll know you're in the wrong spot if you ask them, "Is this a common law court of record? Is this a court of record?" If they say no, then you're in the wrong venue. Get up and walk out of there. You got to show up as a man or a woman and answer for trespasses brought before the court. Stand as a man, stand in truth. The evil powers that be will punish you and try to get you back into their legal jurisdiction. No matter what they do, no matter what they say, stay on your square and stand in truth. Here's what I say. I, a man known as Sean, my last name, am here to settle all debts. What man or woman claims I owe a debt and has a verified statement of the debt? Let them come forward, and I'm here to settle all debts. And then I shut up. I don't say a thing after that. Everything else that I say at that point, I handwrite on a notice. I give to the clerk. They give it to the judge. It's read into the record. That's the proper way to do it. Primary principles of common law. Number 1, liberty to all, but preference to none. Number 2, the safety of the people is the supreme law. Number 3, the safety of the people cannot be judged but by the safety of the individual man and woman. Number 4, consent by force or ignorance is not consent at all. In fact, it's coercion, and coercion is illegal, and it's also unlawful. So it's not morally or ethically right under common law, and it's illegal as hell under their own legal system. Do you know anybody that might have been coerced in the last 2.5 years? I can give you a pretty lengthy list. Using assumption and presumption to gain your consent is not consent at all. See, what you got to understand, guys, is that a contract is only valid if the parties, both parties, have been given all the ins and outs of the contract. They've been given full commercial disclosure under full commercial liability. If they haven't given them all the ins and outs of the contract, or they've lied to them, or they've twisted it in any way, it is null and void. In other words, of no effect. And that's by their legal terms. That's not even by common law terms. That's by the legal world's own definition. The legal system uses assumption and presumption all day, every day. That's how they gain joinder over you. They assume and presume because you live in a specific area or specific region of the world that you're a citizen, or that you're a taxpayer, or that you're this or you're that. And unless you rebut these assumptions, unless you claim your status as a man and that you're not under their control, they're going to keep assuming and keep presuming that, and they're going to keep railroading you and keep trying to move on you. But anyway, that's the very basics, guys, of what's gone on. You guys want to ask me some questions, go ahead here in the chat. I'll answer some questions now. I'll have more on this. Tarek said, I love that line about the safety of the people being judged by the safety of the individual. The greater good is evil under the guise of good. The only good is protecting the individual. Well, that's where your safety comes from. If you can't protect your other fellow man, then you're really not protecting anything. Would you mind telling Maverick Media that for some reason he can't understand it? Well, that's a lot of people can't, but what I would suggest to you is go do some of your own research. You know, I spent 10 years researching common law and learning about the legal system on my own time. You know, so I'm just a mechanic. I'm just a common man on the earth. I'm no genius. So if I can do it, why can't Maverick Media do it? Just a valid question. Can you recommend one book or site that might be helpful to start with? I sure can. Here's a good book for you guys. You want to learn about the farce. It's called Fruit from a Poisonous Tree by Melvin Stamper. I'll type that in the chat here, guys. Bear with me. My typing sucks. You can get that on Amazon, I believe. So go give that one. I spelled poisonous wrong. I think that's right. Anyway, go give that book a go, and you're going to be blown away by that sucker. That thing's going to blow the top of your head right off, because there's a lot of truths found in that one. And there's other books out there that you can read. I learned a lot from Uniform Commercial Code readings. Some of it's quite dry, but it can be interesting in its own way if you get some legal documents in your hand and you learn what these words start to mean. There's another fellow that I follow closely. His name's Carl Lentz, KarlLentz, and you can find him. He's got a new website out. What's it called? I think it's Carl at thelovesociety.com. But anyway, you can check his videos out under Craig Lynch right here on YouTube. And he's probably got about 3,000 hours of common law videos. And you can start there and get a firm foundation as to what's gone on. But anyway, it's not hard to tell from what I told you where the problem lies. It's with evil men again, right? And the fraud that they've created. And they're not making just a little bit of money off your name. They're making a ton of money off your name. Billions with a B, probably trillions since this whole thing started. And the problem is that nobody has come forward to claim the name. And I'm going through that process right now where I'm going to actually claim that name back that they stole. Because the contract, it takes the three people, your mother and father, and you, the named on the document, to make the contract. Because of full commercial liability wasn't given out and you didn't get the full story and it was fraud, then the contract's null and void. So the only person that's able to actually go in and collect that name and claim it is you named on that document, which in my case is me, in your case is you. You can actually go in there and get that document back, and I'm in the process of doing that. And there's another website you might want to check out. It's called the Common Law Court of Great Britain. And I think it's .com or .ca. I can't remember which. But anyway, go online and check that out. And just start doing some homework. Start doing some research into this, guys. It's not hard to do, right? Have you ever watched A1 Australia, Ricardo Rose Posse? No, I have not. That's something I might check out, though. Poisonous. Yeah, that's a difficult word to spell, isn't it, eh? But anyway, that's a good book. There's a lot of really telling things in there that you're not going to find in the mainstream by any stretch. They don't want you knowing this information, guys. It's like the forbidden fruit, right? They don't want you knowing about it. And once the cat's out of the bag, you can't put it back in there. And this is what they're the most worried about, right? So I think it's important to be informed. It says in the Bible that my people perish due to lack of knowledge. Well, the knowledge is a choice. Knowledge is something that you have every right to, and but you have to not be lazy. You have to actually go do it and learn, right? And the minute you say you're done learning, well, you're done living, in my opinion. If you're not going to learn anything else, then you're done living. You're over at that point. I don't want to be in that situation, so I continue to try and exercise my brain and learn new things. Menacing Muskrat, here's a good video to start educating yourself. Yeah, right on. Yeah, there's lots of stuff on BitChute as well. There's stuff everywhere. But in any case, I won't hold you guys up too long. But if you found this helpful at all, give me a thumbs up, comment on the video when it goes back into production there. It goes back on the page. And share it with people that may or may not know about this fraud. Tell people, because if you don't tell them, they're never going to know, right? Jim Ruth, great show, Mr. Hammer. I'm getting that book in the morning. Camp Newfoundland saying thank you. Yeah, for sure, Jim. And when you're done reading it, pass that book on to somebody else to read. Like make a gift of it to somebody that you like or care about. How about that Alberta Premier? Well, she's saying all the right words. That's all I'm going to say about that. I hope it's the real deal. My spidey senses tell me that it is for sure real, but I've been let down before, so I'm not getting too hopeful yet. David Baird, Crow Rules from Old Nova Scotia Trucker here at Truro. Right on, Dale. Thanks, buddy. I just wanted to tell my Nova Scotia folks, too, that we're meeting this Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. at the old fairgrounds across from McDonald's on Commercial Street in New Minas, 2 to 4 p.m. I'll be having another common law chat there, and Gordy will be talking about action that we're going to be taking. We've started an action group on Facebook. We're getting a lot of people starting to join it, starting to wonder about it. So we're starting to figure out what our next case of action is going to be. And you can be sure that we're going to be out in front of somebody and making them uncomfortable, because that's what we have to do. The time for sitting at home, in my opinion, is over, right? Things aren't getting better, guys. They're getting worse. So we got to act. And if you'll come stand with me, I'll call you my brother. I guarantee you for sure will, right? But just come stand, right? Stand with me. I mean, do what you can to help us win. That's what we're trying to do. That's why we're giving up all our time, and I'm spending all our money on gas, traveling all over the place, teaching people things, and trying to get people to stand up. And it's hard in the East here. And you folks, that don't know about Nova Scotia, and you don't know about Eastern Canada, and the uphill battle that we have to constantly fight here to get people to do anything. It's just unbelievable. There's, I don't pity. I kind of envy you guys that live in places where people, like in Alberta, where people are more fighter. They want to stand up. They want to fight. Right? I envy that. But anyway, do what you can with what you got, and try and learn about common law, because I'm telling you, it's the way forward. It's the way that we're going to be able to eventually win, right? And we all know God wins in the end, and he does. But I think while we're on this earth, we owe it to educate ourselves on everything we possibly can that's going to help us. And this is the fraud that's gone on, and it's gone on for probably, I don't know, since the 1200s, maybe even before that. It's gone on a long time, this type of fraud. And this is how the 1% is able to stay in power over the 99%, right? It's exactly why. Because they make it so that all the back doors and all the ins and outs, you can't win in their system, and they know it. And that's why they created it. It's the Spur society. It's their society. They own that society. It's theirs. It's not yours. You're not going to go in there and just push some paperwork around and win. You're not. It doesn't happen that way. You can get the best lawyer in the world, but remember, it takes 3 people to put you in jail: the judge, the attorney, and you yourself, by complying or by accepting a contract that maybe you don't even know you're entering into. That's the truth. They're all on the same baseball team, guys, right? Whereas in common law, you can call them out as a man. They can't hide behind their title of deputy minister or whatever it is. You call them out as Jim the man or Bob the man. They have to appear as that person, as the man. They have to answer to that trespass as a wrongdoer. That's how you win. You move your claim through the court. A jury of your peers, at least 12 other people, stand on that jury. They decide what happens and what the judgment is, right? And how could that be any more fair than have 12 people, impartial people, that have nothing to gain? They're not their political buddies. They're not like Justin Trudeau putting the judge in the case that's going to hear over the what's going on there now. The big distraction, I call it, because that's all it is. They're not going to get anything. They're not even going to get a slap in the wrist. You watch. You mark my words. I'll eat my hat if they do get in trouble for this in any way, shape, or form, because they're not going to, guys. That's not how it works, as somebody pointed out here tonight, River City Courier. That's not how it works. Well, this isn't how it works either. Okay, you're not going to get any remedy in their system, or their political system for that matter. It was rotten before this whole thing happened, and it's going to be rotten after. And in my opinion, the only way it can be fixed is if you dissolve it. You take it completely down. You put people in there in the interim to make sure nothing collapses and people still get their pensions or whatever it needs to happen. And then you appoint the proper people in there, right? And then you don't just leave them alone. You audit them every 3 months and find out what kind of a job they're doing. Are you doing a good job, or are you doing a bad job? Oh, you're doing a bad job. Okay, well, you're done. Goodbye. We'll get somebody else that wants to do the job. And that's how it should be done, right? But anyway, enough of me. Go look into common law, guys. I'll have more on it. Let me know, like I said, if it's been helpful to you in any way. I'm telling you the 100% honest truth. I've looked into this for a decade. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff, okay? It's a fraudulent system they got going. And we're all suckers. We've all been duped into this. And you don't have to be. You can just stand up as a man, and you can leave that legal system behind, right? And we're going to be showing people how to do it, right? If I have to travel to every city and town in this country, I'll do it if I have to let people know. But anyway, get a hold of Gordon Dale Baird. You can go to Angry Scotian on BitChute. That's Gordy's channel. You can email him from there, and he'll get in touch with you. He knows about this common law too. We've been studying it and refining it together, and we're going to practice what we preach here too, guys. So you're going to see that as well. We're not just talking about it. We're going to actually live it. We're going to do it. We got a court case in April. We're going to be there, and we're going to bring common law into the court, and we're going to bring up the trust issue, the birth certificate fraud, and things are going to get wild. I'm telling you. Anyway, this Sunday, Dale, yep, 2 to 4 at the old fairgrounds, right across from Canadian Tire and right across from McDonald's on Commercial Street. That's where you'll find us. Just look for cars with Canadian flags. You'll see us there. But anyway, that's all I got, guys. So thanks for coming on here tonight, Thursday night, no notice. And just remember to stand in truth and stand fearless. Now's the time to be lions. It's not time to be lambs. It's time to be a lion and roar, right? So help us win. God bless you guys. I'll talk to you real soon. Okay, cheers.